pronounce your last name? I'm gonna
Hochman.
let you. Okay, that's right. I knew I was gonna say it wrong. Okay, so now we're live, and of course, I'm at the tail end of a conversation. Hi, I'm Dr. Catherine Toomer, um, family medicine and community health physician, and founder of Health, Wellness, and Weight Loss Centers. And those of you who are joining me for the first time, this is Dr. Toomer Talks. On Tuesdays, you will find I love my alliterations. So and every Tuesday, what we do is we come on, we talk to various people, mostly doctors, about their own health, wellness, and weight loss journeys, but also about what they do that ties into people's health and wellness. And so today, I have Dr. Hochman. Is that right? Yes. I know people say Hochman
I
all the time and
don't even
mispronounce it.
care.
And I realized that the last minute I was like, you know what? I better find out how to say it correctly. Um,
It's always said with good intent, so
Yes.
I'm
Okay.
good.
Well, I am going to let you introduce yourself so that I don't seem like I'm just reading off a cue card. And, and so just tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. So I'm Lara Hochman. I'm a family medicine physician, and I help physicians find the ideal job, the job that will not cause you burnout, that you can enjoy working in, that you feel that autonomy and hopefully flexibility and all the things that we really want and need as physicians.
Well, thank you. And I'm first going to say hello to my aunt Cynthia who's watching. Say hello. And if you're watching later, put in hashtag replay. Now I know, and Chris. Oh, thank you, Chris. I was gonna say I must be in the wrong place because Chris isn't here. Chris comes, and my Cynthia and Chris come every single week. I really appreciate your support. And honestly, if I didn't see your names, I would wonder if I was in the right place. So thank you, thank you, thank you for showing up every week. I really do appreciate it very much. So this is a topic actually that's very, very dear to me. My whole business is based around my having to leave a job because I was starting to get ill. I already had a heart condition and it was worsening in a position that I had, and I just stopped. It wasn't like a transition, 2 week notice. One day I was there, next day I wasn't because of for health reasons. So, how important is it when looking for a job, one, to make sure it's a good fit? And how do we know if it's a good fit?
The first thing to know is that you never know. We can't predict the future. We make the
Hmm.
best decisions with the information that we have. I think, probably the most important thing that I tell people is know what your priorities are going into job applications. So know what your priorities are before you even start applying to jobs, because once you start applying, then you're going to get attracted by all the things that they're trying to attract you with. So I spoke with a finance guru once, and he said, if they're paying the most, that's a red flag. So, we get very enticed, especially with all of our student loans and all of that, by the salaries that certain positions are able to provide. But you really want to think like, why can they provide those salaries? What are they doing that allows them to be able to make that revenue? Um, so as far as finding the job that's the right job, the most important thing is being very clear on your priorities. And your priorities may be earn a lot of money, get out, and that's fine. But knowing like I'm going to be burned out, this is my action plan, all of those things, so important.
And just so for those of you who are listening, yes, Dr. Hockman does help physicians find good matches for their job, particularly, and this is really important for any job, whether it's your first job or your 10th job. But just know that you can take whatever she's saying and apply it to whatever field you're in. It's just so important. So continue listening. This isn't just for physicians. This is for anyone because her information is just really, really good. I've heard it many times, and I still learn something every time I hear her speak.
Oh, thank you.
And so my feeling is that when people come to you asking you for your help, how often do they talk about their health being a reason why they're looking? Is that common?
Um, Mental health, yes, extremely
Okay.
common. I There have been quite a few physicians who will say to me, "I am not able to work when I'm, for physical health reasons."
Hmm.
Very, very, very commonly, it's for mental health reasons, which obviously, as we all know,
Hmm.
really plays into our physical health so much. But mental health is just as important, if not more, than physical health. So
And is there a way of knowing, like, what are the red flags of your mental health? Like, just you mentioned that people paying a whole lot more than other people is like a red flag. Like, why are they paying me so much to try to come in and do a job that everybody else, is, also has? But what other like other traits that you look for? Are there toxic things within the work environment? Questions you should ask to kind of pull that information out so that we
yes.
know if that's the case.
Yeah. Okay, that's a multi-part question. So
Yeah.
as far as
You'll find I
gotta
like
keep
to ask
gotta
those
gotta keep
multi-part
the
questions.
questions there.
Like, okay, keep a pen and paper because I'm going to answer
Okay,
the
got it.
questions in multi-parts. No, it's okay.
I'm
I'll just
ready.
repeat it. And especially since because I'll probably forget what question I asked. So that one of us will remember.
Okay, I'm taking notes here. I've got red flags and what to ask. Okay. So red flags, there's a lot. If there's a
Mhm,
lot of turnover, that's the biggest red flag. If they're just going through physicians and they cannot retain their physicians, you really need to think about why. Um, that's probably the biggest red flag you could possibly
mhm.
imagine.
And how would you
Um,
know that though?
you ask. You
Oh,
have
okay.
to ask the hard questions.
Hmm.
It's a little bit harder in a smaller practice when there's only one physician that's there.
Hmm.
It's not going to
Yeah,
turn over if it's a private practice.
yeah.
But you have to ask those hard questions. And I do get a lot of physicians that I'm working with, and I help through the entire process. So I kind of coach through the interviews and coach through all of that. Um, but I'll get a lot of physicians who'll say to me, I really want to know this, but I can't ask that. I'm like, heck yeah, you can ask that, and you should ask it. Like that's exactly what you should be asking. So you have to ask those hard questions. You can ask, why are you filling this position? So, the obvious good ones are growth, or someone's retiring after being there for 30 years. There are obvious bad ones like, well, the physician left. Ask, did you leave on good terms? All of those things. If they left, even to take care of family, is the family local? Why did they not decrease hours? What kind of conversations happened beforehand? I think there's a lot to be said for what is being said, how it is being said, and what is not being said. I think it's a good time to get good at reading body language. So-
Ah. So then my question is, how much of a red flag is it if the person you're talking to is speaking badly about the person prior in
I
that
don't
job?
I don't love that.
Mhm,
A lot of the practices that I work with, and so I also help practices to find physicians, and I get really down and dirty with those practices. Like I want to know everything about them so that when I'm going out to find them a physician, I know what that good match looks like or what a bad match looks like too.
mhm.
And so typically they'll be very nice about it and say, well, it wasn't a good fit. Or I'm like, no, I need to know like exactly why it wasn't a
Why they
good
weren't a
fit.
good fit. Yes.
And we know, I mean, we've all worked with physicians who were difficult to work with or, had issues and all of that. So it's not necessarily
Mhm,
terrible. I think it all depends on kind of what is said and how it's said. I think very highly of honesty. I think that it's so important to be completely transparent. You have absolutely no reason, whether you're interviewing for a job or you're the employer interviewing a candidate for a job, there's no
mhm,
reason to try to hide anything, because if something comes out afterwards and that would have been a deal breaker, and now you're in a job that makes you miserable, or you have an employee that's miserable, that's bad for everyone involved.
mhm,
um, so I think very highly of practices who'll tell me flat out, like, they weren't a good cultural fit. The office staff maybe didn't respond appropriately or something,
mm, okay. Yeah.
but if they're like, ugh, they're awful to work with, well,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that's a little
Yeah.
bit
That's
of a red
not good.
flag.
Yeah. Okay.
So I take that more in
Mhm.
how they speak about it rather than what they say.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And so what brought you to this field? I mean, what got you here?
God, I ask myself that every day. What um okay. So, I knew that we all know medicine's in a very interesting very interesting place, and something
Yeah,
has to be
I
done.
know. Mhm,
And lots of things are being done, which is great.
mhm,
But when I was in a private practice that was bought by a large hospital system,
mhm,
the hospital that I was speaking with that bought the practice, they didn't negotiate. Their contract was very egregious, and this was a very still is an extremely large system, which means that they're able to say, take it or leave it. You don't want to sign, don't. Fine. And I mean, for me, it was just not even a question. Like, there's no way I would sign that contract.
mhm,
Um, but they had the ability to say, fine. And then I walked away. Um, and the other physicians in the practice didn't feel that way. They were like, well, but we didn't have a choice. And I'd be like, of
mhm.
course you have a choice. Of course. We're physicians. There's like so many, and I'm family medicine. So there's no shortage of
Yes,
family medicine jobs.
yeah,
Um, so that's kind of when I start then when the wheels started turning, like something needs to be done. And at the time, it's really interesting when I think back on this, how much I've grown as a person.
mhm,
Because in my head I was like, no one's gonna listen to what I have to say. Or, I've gotten much better with speaking my thoughts and using words. And so I had thought, well, I thought maybe I could do lobbying, but I don't really, no one's going to listen to me. Or maybe I could like teach doctors how to negotiate. And I'm like, well, they don't really, no one's going to. I think it was like all this like self confidence stuff. And so, I had thought what I was going to do and never came up with anything. I then thought that I had left medicine forever and did. And I was like, great, I'm retired at this like young 30 something year old. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life, but I'm not going to do medicine because, well, medicine. And then I found my way into a practice that was amazing. I didn't deal with insurance companies all that much, except for the occasional prior authorization. I had ample time with patients, such that, like, when I did get a prior auth, it wasn't a big deal because
mhm,
there weren't that many of them.
yeah,
Um, it was just, I felt like I had an autonomy. I could do what was right for the patients. I could, if there was something that I felt like needed to be changed, I could make that change. There were
mhm,
so many good things about it. And that's
yes,
when I realized, oh my goodness, like I do love medicine. I do love practicing
mhm,
medicine. Um, and so I was like, well, if doctors can find the practice that they enjoy, I mean, I went from, in the private practice, which I liked for so many reasons, I was still burnt out. I still would dread waking up in the morning. I still was like cranky and didn't have the patience for my kids, putting them to bed. And then I went to this practice and I was excited to get out of bed. I loved putting my kids to bed. Like it just had such a big ripple effect on my entire life as a
mhm,
part-time physician. It wasn't even that I was there 5 full days a week.
mhm.
I have a guest here that keeps crying at my feet, so I'm gonna bring in a guest.
Okay.
Okay, there you go. That's my baby.
Oh, okay.
So she can calm down a little. Um, and so that's when I realized that, there are so many physicians who are leaving medicine or miserable or
Mhm,
burned out. And there's jobs out there that are wonderful for them. And I recruited some physicians to be in the practice, and they went from burned out to happy. And then word started spreading that I do this. And so then I started helping out some friends' practices to find physicians. And I spent many, many, many hours doing it.
mhm,
And then I was like, and my husband kept saying to me, well, you're doing it anyway. You should get paid. You're spending like all of your time on this. I was like, well,
mhm.
I guess. And so hence Happy Day Health was born.
Nice. Nice,
Yeah.
nice. And so what would you tell someone who is really burned out at the end of I see it often. Like I said, I help people with health wellness and then weight loss. I tack the weight loss in honestly because often so much of people's stress manifests as weight
Yeah.
gain. And so by adding weight loss, I can basically capture those people. And so at what point should people just say enough is enough? I need to call, Dr. Hochman for her to help me find a new job that will make me happier.
If you're watching this and what I'm saying about, waking up with that dread or just being cranky all the time resonates, call me. Like, you have nothing to lose. I don't charge for just to call and chat and see where you are. Um I think the most important thing, change is hard. Change is very hard for anyone, but I think even more so for us as physicians, in large part because we feel a sense of responsibility to our patients. We love our patients. I mean, they're like, when I leave a practice, I feel like I'm breaking up with 3,000 people. It's awful.
Yeah.
um, and so I would say the first thing to do is see what you can do to change things. So, you know, go to your leadership and say, hey, can I go down to 4 days a week? Can I get more time with my patients? Could I get a 30-minute break in the middle of the day to catch up on charting? Could I get a scribe? Could I, depending on what it is. So really just
Mhm.
take stock of what can be changed and see if you can change it. You know, you probably are, there's something about where you are that you like that attracted to you to the place.
To the place.
Um, and at that point, if they say no or nothing happens, then it's definitely time to call me. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's find you something better.
So I have a bit of a personal question. So, well, you mentioned that you were in a practice that was bought out and it wasn't right for you, and so you left. In any other situation in your life where you just felt like your health was being affected by a particular situation? If so, has that ever happened? And what did you do about it?
Oh, if it was affected by a situation, having children.
Yeah, I was gonna say other than having children is I kind of figured you're gonna say that. Not a whole lot you can do about that other than you can't give them back. So
No, I'm stuck with them, luckily.
as much as we're tempted to, we can't give them back.
Yeah, I
But
mean, I
mhm,
definitely stress eat. I mean, when I'm
yeah,
stressed, I eat.
mhm,
Or, I well, when I'm stressed, I eat. When I'm happy, I eat.
mhm,
But the eating part, it's hard. Or if I can't sleep in the middle of the night, which lucky for me, I don't sleep well when I'm stressed out, but I also don't sleep well when I'm really excited. And then the only way I can get back
mhm.
to sleep is if I you know
Eat
binge on a whole
something.
bunch of like anything, and then uh, can go to sleep. So that's kind of a big one for me. Um, Probably the biggest like health issue. Oh, and what do I do about it? I just keep
Eat.
trying. Yeah, I need
I just
exactly.
eat.
I
Well,
do.
it's interesting because one of the things that I tell people when they who stress eat, they're like, "Well, what can I do? I need to stop stressing." I'm like, "No, we all eat from our emotions. That's what I mean. We have whole holidays around them. Thanksgiving
That's
is all about emotional eating.
true.
The thing is to it's what you eat. You can
Exactly.
stress eat as much as you want if you eat the right thing.
Yeah.
Or well, there's no right or wrong thing, but basically eat things in the right way. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
And so, so I just want to stress that, yeah, because people who listen to me often know that I'm like, stress eat all you want, just make sure it's not a box of cookies. That's all.
Right. Exactly.
you know.
Yeah. I mean, I would say the thing that I do for that would be scheduling things. So
hmm
I know, like, I fell asleep last night at 3 a.m., but it's because I worked until 9:30 at night, and I know that I overstretched myself this summer with work, and my work got me really excited. Like, I was like, "I'm gonna help all these people," and then I couldn't sleep, and so I had to get out of bed and, like, write out my plan because I wasn't gonna sleep until my plan was finished. So, that was, I mean, it's a good reason, but it happens.
Yeah, it does.
Um and then, yeah, I mean, the other kind of health thing, so I had some musculoskeletal stuff in the past where,
hmm
it was really tough and, kind of one of those things no one sees, and, like, I had trouble standing or walking or any of those things, and that was tough. Like, I actually stopped going to kids' birthday parties for a little bit because for some reason, adults don't ever sit at kids' birthday parties, so so
Too busy running around behind the kids.
you don't notice that until, like, you can't do it.
Yeah.
Um, so it took me a while there. I think, I did the regular human being thing where I went to physical therapy, but then I didn't do my homework, and,
Mm,
eventually, once I started, like, really getting into it, I think I just kind of broke it down into more realistic steps for what was, possible. I was burnt That was kind of around the time that I was burnt out and had a very hard time getting it done,
mm,
anything done, and actually, come to think of it, it was when I left medicine, that I was able to do my work, do my
Mm,
physical therapy, and then I met
therapy.
got better. So, and then started the new job that
Hmm.
I loved. So yeah, I mean, I think burnout just
Hmm. Yeah.
it's really hard for health.
Yeah. We really don't make that connection, but stress and inflammation go hand in hand.
Mhm.
And so when you do reduce your stress, you do reduce your inflammation. And
Yeah.
so, yes, that's very important. Well, if someone wants to find you and wants a new job, or they're seeing a doctor and they see signs of their doctor saying, you're really burned out, you should call Dr. Hochman and see if she can help you find someplace
Totally.
new. Just make sure you take me with you as a patient. So, how do people find you?
So, happydayhealth.co, that's my website. It's not .com. There is a contact form on there. There's my calendar scheduling link on there. You can schedule to chat with me there. Um, you can find me on LinkedIn. My name there is Lara Hochman, MD, and you can just message me directly. Those are probably the two best ways. I do have a YouTube channel that you're welcome to check out. It's called Happy Day Health by Lara Hochman, MD, I think. So check it out.
I
There's a lot
hope
of good
it's
stuff
by
on
you, not someone else.
there.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. This has been a really great discussion, and I hope that people have gathered, gained some really good information. Like I said, everything she says can be applied across the board, not just for doctors. So, but thank you so much for joining me,
Thank you so much for having me, Dr.
and
Toomer.
for those listening for joining us. Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you, Chris. Anyone else who's listening, say just say hi or say replay when you listen to it later. So, all right. Good night.